What's up, y'all? I'm Kara Whitfield. Welcome to Kara Speaks, where faith, healing, and real conversations meet. I am a speaker as well as author of the book, Healing Cost Me Everything. That's available right now on Amazon.com. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button and let's build a community. Prior to therapy, I hated conflict. In fact, I still hate conflict because healing did not make me love conflict. I still feel that tension in my chest, that old tightness I used to feel. That's the residuals of my former self when I used to be faced with conflict, because in the past, conflict meant the end of a relationship, the end of a friendship, or that after the conflict, the relationship was going to change drastically and never be the same again. Even now, healed and grounded, I still feel that tension because it doesn't go away, because my body remembers what conflict used to cost me. But my mind now, as the healed version of Kara, I react differently. I move differently. I used to hate conflict so much that I would rush a conversation because I did not like the feeling of that tension. I wanted to get rid of that discomfort. So I would try to rush the conversation so we can have it and get it over with and be done with it. Or I would avoid the conversation. I think I was more so of I had anxious avoidant attachment. I would avoid the conversation altogether because I didn't feel safe to have the conversation. I wasn't processing fully. So I would end up having the conversation more than once because I would spend more time managing my tone, managing the emotions of the other person for this future conversation. I wanted to make sure I say things right so they won't get offended. I want to make sure that my tone is not too loud, make sure that I'm not too aggressive, making sure that I can get my point across, explaining however many times I need to explain just so they get it. But it never worked out that way. I was rehearsing my lines. I was rehearsing instead of reflecting. Tone policing myself, managing their emotions more than I was managing my own. I was trying to say the right thing so they wouldn't get defensive and leave. That was true. That was something I had to really face myself and say. I was policing my tone so they wouldn't leave. You know how hard that is to admit to yourself? Do you know how hurtful that is to know that you abandoned yourself because you were afraid somebody was going to leave? And even more so to know that you were choosing people who would leave you after a moment of conflict. That was hard to face. Is that really friendship? Is that really true connection? No, it's not. If I have to manage all of these things prior to even having the conversation, then that's not true effective communications. That is performance. So where did it shift? Well, now I pause. I take a moment. I don't anxiously go into a conversation without fully processing everything that I feel in that moment. And if that takes a day, 2 days, whatever, I pause now. I will sleep on it. I don't rush a conversation and with the risk of not getting everything out and then having to revisit it again. That was a really big thing that I would have. And in that moment, when you're trying to rush a conversation, resentment builds up. And that's when you end up having all of these things, molehills turn into mountains. Pausing allows my brain and my nervous system to calm down. I don't go into panic mode whenever there is a disagreement or whenever I feel that tension in my body. I don't feel like I have to hurry up and get it out. I mean, I still feel that, but I don't lead with that anymore. I ask myself, I say, what do I need in this moment? Is this worth the conversation? What part did I play? What part did they play? When I finally do decide to talk about it, I'm not showing up shrinking. I'm not showing up with resentment. I'm not walking in with the script, because honestly, that script never felt real. The script that I used to walk in with after processing how they might react to what I'm going to say, I always walked away feeling heavy about it because it was all a performance. I was acting. Not to say that what I felt wasn't real, but I wasn't speaking my truth. And I would get mad at them instead of setting boundaries and honoring myself. I would project that anger onto them. Oh, they just don't get it. They just don't listen. No, I wasn't effectively communicating either. Yes, true. Some people were very dismissive. But for some, because I was communicating from my wounds, they were listening from their wounds. And then we end up just bumping heads. So now that I'm finally showing up for myself in moments of conflict, because they still happen, I don't walk away with resentment. I walk away in truth. And the relationships are still together. There's no damage that cannot be repaired, because I'm also pouring into people who also pour into me. I'm I'm in aligned connections now where I don't feel like I have to carry the conversation. I say what I feel. I say why I feel it. I say what I need without guilt. I don't fear anybody walking away, because if you walk away because I am telling you what I feel, how secure was that friendship or relationship? How honest was it? It wasn't stable to begin with, because if conflict can make something break, then that just tells you how fragile it was. And the thing is, I am now operating in a space where I am an emotional regulated communicator. Yet I am still going to encounter people who can't hold themselves accountable, who lack emotional intelligence, who get defensive and are dismissive. And I am going to have to manage myself in those moments, because the people have not changed, but I have. And I am only responsible for myself. So I choose not to argue with people who are hell-bent on misunderstanding me, because that used to be a really big problem for me. I used to over-explain all the time because I just did not want to be misunderstood. But now I don't care. I don't care about being misunderstood. And when you're in a place of healing, you're just going to have to accept that you are going to be misunderstood by people who do not want to understand your point of view, because they haven't done the work in themselves. I don't have the same conversation anymore 10 different ways and just hoping that they finally get it. If I have explained impact, I have expressed hurt, and you still refuse to understand where I'm coming from, that tells me everything I need to know. If you refuse to hear me, I'm going to believe you. I'm not going to do backflips in my mind trying to say, well, maybe they didn't. No, because I communicate clearly now. I process fully now. Not every conflict needs to be repeated over and over and over again with the same conversation. Initially, of course, I will have a conversation. But sometimes when you see people do things over and over, that's a cycle. Okay. And a cycle is a pattern. And I don't need to have the final conversation. Sometimes watching people's pattern, that's the closure that you need. So now I choose where to invest my emotions. Do I need to have a conversation with this person? Now I think about the relationship before I think about the argument. Before I start playing out a script of what I'm going to say, I think about, do I value this person enough? Do I love this person enough to have a conversation? Is this conversation worth my energy? How much emotional space am I willing to hold? How much of my tone am I willing to soften? Because I don't manage people's emotions and worrying about how they're going to take it. But if it's somebody that I love and somebody that I care about, I'm always going to be kind. But I am not going to shrink or abandon myself while speaking my truth. So if I have to soften my tone for somebody I love because I know that they are sensitive, because we have to be emotionally intelligent about those things. We have to be cognizant about how people receive us, because just as I am operating from my own space, from my own past and present and my own personal wounds, so is everybody else. And although we're not responsible for everybody's emotions, we always want to be kind. We always want to be considerate, especially of the people we love. So I will adjust my tone, but as long as I'm not abandoning myself, I can do that, because I know what abandoning care cost me. I know what it cost me in the past. So that's something that I'm just not willing to give up. But I will adjust as needed for the people who are aligned with me. But I understand the balance now, and the healed me is able to walk that line safely without fear of going too far to the left or the right. So where am I with conflict now? I'm not perfect, okay? I'm not going to always communicate effectively. You know, nobody's asking any of us to be perfect, but I am present. I am more aware of how I communicate. I am more aware of my body and what I feel when I feel tension, when I feel those old wounds start to creep up again, and I'm able to separate what is present and what is from the past. I'm just emotionally aware. I'm not afraid of losing people. I think that is one of the things that I feel most settled in my spirit about. I'm not afraid to lose people now. That feels good to say. I think that's actually the first time I've actually said that out loud. I'm not afraid to lose people, because I've had those conversations with the people that I love, and we are committed. We are intentional about friendships and our connections, and we are adamant about making the friendship work. So that makes me settled in my spirit. That gives me clarity, and it makes it calms my nervous system to know that I have people in my corner that I know won't leave because I tell them how I feel. That feels good to know. Even though we're all on different healing journeys, we understand each other. And healing didn't make me conflict free, and it certainly doesn't make conflict easy. I still get uncomfortable with conflict, but I don't fear the outcome anymore. So I don't avoid it. With clarity, compassion, and with the kind of honesty that lets me walk away knowing that I did not abandon myself. And that makes me proud. So if you are in a space where you are healing and you're growing, tell me, how do you deal with conflict? How did you deal with conflict prior to going to therapy? How are you dealing with conflict now? What is the biggest lesson that you have learned in this moment? Also, if you see these jackets right here, they're on my website, karaspeaks.com. They just came in. This is new merch. I got red and blue right now. Black is sold out. So when black comes back in stock, I'll let you guys know. Also, these beanies, Healing Cost Me Everything, is also available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. But I'll see y'all next week right here. Stay faithful, healed, and free.
Please buy my TT's book. You can't resist this cute little face.
And are you getting paid for this advertisement?
Yeah.
No, you're not getting paid.